Daniel thought he was chasing a missing voice. He didn't realize the voice was chasing him. Sometimes the case you're following is following you. In Garrison Hollow, the calls aren't just evidence, they are bait. And the moment Daniel Cho opened that hatch, he stopped chasing the truth and started living inside it. This is Unheard Evidence, where the facts speak louder than words. Sometimes the most dangerous witness is the one who isn't supposed to exist. Leah Parker's smile didn't belong here. Not in the dark at the rim of Garrison Hollow. Not with Colden a few feet away, the black box between them humming like it had a heartbeat of its own. And certainly not with Doyle's voice still floating in the air behind Daniel. She stepped toward him slowly, like she had all night. Her reflective vest caught the thin sweep of a flashlight beam from somewhere behind, glowing in jagged bands across her chest. "Daniel," she said, her voice calm, as if they were meeting in line at the post office. "You finally made it." Daniel's instinct was to step back, not because she looked threatening, but because she didn't. Everything about her was measured, controlled. If Leah had been the frightened caller Camille suspected, those edges were gone now. "What is this?" Daniel's voice carried across the hollow rim, low and sharp. "What's in the box? And why am I hearing Camille?" Leah's eyes flicked toward Doyle, still half in shadow at the tree line. Doyle didn't move, didn't speak. Colden, on the other hand, was watching Daniel the way you watch a faulty wire, knowing it might spark at any second. "This," Leah said, resting her hand lightly on the box, "is a reason you're still standing here and not down there." She nodded toward the ravine. "The hollow takes people, Daniel, but it doesn't keep them. Not all of them." Before Daniel could ask what that meant, the black box emitted a single, crisp tone, not a beep, but a note sustained for a fraction of a second. The red light on its face stopped blinking and went solid. The click hum in Daniel's earpiece returned. Then, Camille's voice. "Daniel, you need to listen to me very carefully. If you're at the hollow, you're already in range. Do not go past the culvert." "They!" The voice fractured. White noise spilled in. Then it returned, urgent and closer. "Buried him here. Not Harold. Someone else. His badge is still." Static swallowed the rest. Daniel took a half step forward. "That's Liv. That's her. Where is she?" Leah shook her head. "It's a transmission. Live or not, you wouldn't know the difference unless you were there when it was made." Colden moved beside her, opened the case wider, and began adjusting dials on the box. The hum deepened, a low vibration that made the soles of Daniel's boots buzz against the packed dirt. "This place," Colden said, "was the first one they tested, long before your Winters case, long before Doyle. You think these transmissions start with us? They don't." The words dug at Daniel's mind. If Colden was telling the truth, then the tests Camille talked about, Hollow, Winters, now whatever this third one was, weren't isolated incidents. They were iterations of something bigger. From the tree line, Doyle finally stepped into the light. He looked older than he had in the fire tower, like the weight of this place pressed harder on him. "Ask yourself," Doyle said, "why a county maintenance budget would fund off-ledger jobs at a site the coroner called an accident. Ask why the dispatch log for that night never existed. Ask why your friend was looking here before she disappeared." Daniel didn't need to ask. He'd already seen Camille's file on the hollow. Harold Green, accidental fall, no call logged. Whispered rumors of a 911 connection that went nowhere. But there was something else in her notes, a line he hadn't been able to make sense of until now. "Hollow not empty. Voices carry." The hum from the black box deepened again, and with it, faint voices began to rise from the ravine. They were warped by echo, stretched thin like fabric pulled too far. Fragments of words surfaced, disjointed. "Help, don't, Colden." Daniel's rational mind told him it was a broadcast, recordings played through hidden speakers, maybe even the tower repeater. But his skin prickled like the air itself was speaking. Leah crouched beside the box, fine-tuning one of the dials. "Third transmission's clean," she said without looking up. "He'll hear her now." Camille's voice returned, clear enough to cut through every doubt. "Daniel, it's not me they want. It's..." Another voice, male, deep, The same gravelly tone from the old recorder overrode hers. "Time's up." The signal cut out completely. Leah closed the case. Colden lifted it by the handle. Doyle started back toward the tree line. "Wait!" Daniel's shout carried, startling even himself. "Where are you taking that? Where is she?" Doyle stopped just long enough to turn his head. "You'll get your answer when the fourth one starts." By the time Daniel scrambled around the culvert to follow them, their lights were gone. The only glow left was a faint silver of moonlight across the hollow's floor, and something else. Near the culvert's base, half buried in clay, a metallic glint caught his eye. He slid down the slope carefully, hands sinking into the wet earth. The object was small, no bigger than his palm, caked in dirt, but when he rubbed it clean, the engraving was still visible. WCMA 2009, Unit 4. A badge, County Maintenance. The nameplate read, M. Ash, Morgan Ash, the retired telecom technician who told Camille how to patch a call without leaving a trace. The man who'd explained the repeater link between the tower and dispatch. The man Daniel had last spoken to over a year ago, when he'd said he didn't want to be involved anymore. If his badge was here, and Camille's transmission had mentioned a badge, then Ash hadn't just walked away from the story. He'd been part of it. Daniel pocketed the badge and climbed back to the rim, heart pounding. The pieces were shifting again. Leah Parker wasn't just a frightened caller. She was working with Doyle and Colden. The third transmission was centered on the hollow. Camille's voice was either alive and close, or a weapon they could deploy whenever they wanted. And now, Morgan Ash's name was in the mix, not as a source, but as a link to whatever was buried here. 2 days later, another envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a strip of black and white photo negatives. Daniel held them to the light. Each frame showed the hollow from above, likely aerial shots from a drone or a small plane. But one frame was different. In it, at the base of the ravine, was a structure he'd never seen before. Rectangular, low to the ground, and judging from the shadows, at least 20 feet long. Written along the edge of that frame in marker. Open twice, close once. If it had been opened twice and only closed once, then someone or something was still inside. Daniel's hand shook as he packed a camera, flashlight, and the badge into his bag. He was going back to the hollow. Not at night, not under their terms, but in daylight, when the shadows couldn't lie as easily. The trek down was harder in the sun, the heat baking the clay until it cracked under his boots. When he reached the floor, he found the spot from the photo. At first glance, it was just earth and rock. But when he pushed aside the top layer, his fingers hit metal. A hatch, with a county maintenance lock. The badge wasn't the key, but it was enough to jam the latch until it broke. The hatch door groaned as he pulled it open. The smell that hit him was stale, metallic, and laced with something older, like wet stone and time itself. A short ladder led down into darkness. Daniel switched on his flashlight and descended. The space below was narrower than he'd expected, a concrete corridor barely wide enough for him to turn sideways. Along the walls, cables snaked into metal junction boxes. At the far end, a single steel door stood closed, and from behind it, the click hum. He stepped closer. The sound shifted, resolved into a voice. Not Camille's, not Leah's, but one he'd never heard before, female, mid-30s, speaking low and fast. Third transmission complete. Preparing fourth. Target. Cho. Daniel's breath caught. They weren't just sending signals to him. He was the next test. His hand went to the door handle. He had seconds to decide, open it and see who was inside, or get out before whoever was on the other side realized he was already here. The voice on the other side stopped speaking. Silence. Then a slow, deliberate knock. Once. Twice. 3 times. Come in, Daniel. Daniel's fingers tightened around the handle. Cold steel. No give. Whoever was inside had either locked it from their side, or was waiting for him to. The knock still echoed in his ears. Deliberate, patient, not the frantic pounding of someone desperate to get out. This was an invitation. He twisted the handle. It resisted for a breath, then gave with a sound that cut through the corridor's stale air. The door swung inward. The room beyond was barely lit. A single overhead bulb, its pull chain swaying slightly as if someone had brushed past a moment before. No windows, no furniture, just concrete walls and a rectangular metal table in the center. And the woman. She sat at the far side of the table, posture straight, hands folded, mid-30s, maybe, dark hair pulled back into a low braid. Her expression was unreadable, not fear, not aggression. Something colder, recognition. "You took your time," she said. Daniel stepped inside, every instinct telling him to keep his back to the wall. "I don't know who you are," he said, "but you know my name. You've been listening to my voice for weeks." Her gaze didn't waver. "That wasn't Camille in the Hollow. It was me. Transmission 3 was mine. Transmission 2, if you count the bleed from the tower." Daniel felt the floor shift beneath the conversation, not physically, but in his head. She was telling him, without a flicker of hesitation, that she had been inside the very coals he'd built his entire lead on. "Why?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into a battered file envelope and slid something across the table. A photo. It showed the Hollow, not the aerial shot from his envelope 2 days ago, but ground level. In the background, the hatch he'd just forced open. In the foreground, Morgan Ash, alive, wearing the same WCMA badge Daniel now had in his pocket. The date in the corner was 6 months ago. "You found his badge," she said. "That means you know what that photo doesn't show. That is not missing. He's buried here," Daniel said quietly. Her eyes flicked to his bag. "Or someone wants you to think he is." Daniel's breath slowed. "And that someone is you." She ignored the question. "The Hollow's been a test site for longer than you've been alive. Maintenance records, county payrolls, budget lines that don't exist, all cover for what happens here. 3 transmissions so far, all different, all targeting people who thought they were working alone." "And the 4th?" Daniel asked. Her lips curved, not into a smile, but into something sharper, almost pity. "You don't get to cover the 4th, Daniel. You are the 4th. Before he could respond, the bulb overhead flickered twice. The hum in the walls deepened, the same frequency from black box Leah had carried. It was coming from behind the concrete. The woman leaned back. "They're already listening. You can leave now and pretend you never came down here, or you can sit and they'll start recording." "Recording what?" "Your part." Daniel's mind spun. This wasn't just about intercepting calls or burying logs. It was about creating them, building narratives from captured voices, packaging them as evidence, then slotting them into whatever case they needed to stay. He stayed standing. "If this is my part, then Camille's still alive." The woman didn't flinch. "Maybe, but she's not your story anymore." Something scraped above them. Heavy boots on the hatch lid. Then, a metallic slam. The echo locked the air tight. Daniel turned toward the door. It was already closed. The woman hadn't moved. "You'll get out when they want you to," she said. "That's how it works." 2 floors above, in the sunlight Daniel couldn't see, Leah Parker stood at the edge of the hatch, radio in hand. "Contact made," she said. 4th transmission ready to prime. Doyle's voice crackled back. "Seal it until Calden gets there. We need the badge in his possession before they run the scrub. And if he doesn't give it up." A pause. Then, "He will." Below, Daniel paced a narrow space. The woman hadn't moved, but she was watching him with the focus of someone who'd done this before. "What's your name?" he asked. "Which one?" "The one that would be on a maintenance roster." She hesitated just long enough to make the silence heavy. "Morgan Ash replacement," she said. Daniel froze. "Replacement? He quit." Her expression shifted, the first sign of something human. "No one quits. Not in Hollow work." She slid another photo toward him. This one was darker, harder to read, until he realized it was taken inside this very room. The table was the same. The chair she sat in was the same. But in the chair was Morgan Ash, eyes closed, head tilted back, a microphone angled toward his mouth. "Transmission 1, she said softly, before they got better at masking it. Daniel's grip on the photo tightened. "Where is this headed?" She leaned forward. to you opening your mouth and saying what they need you to say. Because once it's in the system, it doesn't matter if it happened. The Hollow keeps records no court will ever see and destroys the ones they might. The hum rose again, carrying a faint rhythm now, not random static, but almost like a heartbeat. And then, in the rhythm, a voice emerged. Daniel. His chest tightened. It was Camille. This time, there was no doubt, no distortion, no bleed. Daniel, if you hear this, you've already gone too far. Don't trust the woman. Don't trust Doyle. Don't even trust me. Static flared. Then silence. Daniel looked up. The woman was watching him carefully. They'll do that, she said. Layer her voice in until you can't tell what's hers and what's not. That's the point. But Daniel's mind had already locked on the one phrase Camille, or whoever, had just used. Don't even trust me. Up top, the hatch opened again. Colden climbed down halfway, a duffel bag over his shoulder. He didn't address Daniel. He looked straight at the woman. Swap him out, Colden said. His part's starting now. She stood, slid the envelope and photos back into the file, and brushed past Daniel. Her braid caught briefly on his jacket zipper, the only contact between them. Good luck, she murmured. You'll need it. The ladder rattled as she climbed out. Colden dropped the duffel onto the table and unzipped it. Inside, a portable transmitter, sleeker than the black box, with a headset clipped to the side. You're going to read something, Colden said. Into that. Doesn't matter if you believe it. Doesn't matter if it's true. All that matters is the voiceprint. Daniel didn't move. And if I don't? Colden's eyes hardened. Then they'll pull something else from you. Everyone leaves a print down here. Cho. Some just choose theirs. From somewhere deeper in the concrete, another hum started. Lower, heavier. It vibrated through the table legs into Daniel's bones. For the first time since entering, he wondered if the Hollow wasn't just a place where voices traveled. Maybe it was a place that kept them. The Hollow has one rule. Everyone leaves a voice behind. Daniel just didn't realize his would be the next stage use. And if Camille's voice can be faked, how do we know any of them are real? This isn't the end of the transmissions. It's only the end of the ones they want us to hear. This is Unheard Evidence. Subscribe for more. Every fact, every whisper, every erased second, recovered